guys makes of that.
Can I not just go and get a printout so I've got it in front of us? It'll just be 2 minutes.
Okay. I'll give. Right. Well, we've only gone live, but that's fine. Yeah, you do a printout, and I'll do a bit of talking first. Good afternoon if you're tuning in here in the UK. If you're in Australia, you should be in bed because it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. If you're the other side of the pond, then we should be looking at, as far as I know, 3 o'clock. That's about 10 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, 9 o'clock in the morning Central time, and I'm going to hazard a guess, about 7 o'clock in the morning if you're anywhere near Crunch Island. So my guest today, James, has just gone to quickly print something off that he wanted to share with us. However, thanks to the technology of this StreamYard, I'm going to share something with you straight away, which is the recording that that James and I did of this tune called the Coupon Road Rag. Let me just make sure that it's all set up right, because I do sometimes get this muddled up. So let's just make sure everything is hunky-dory, ready to go, which I think it is, and we'll do that, and we'll do that. And hi there, James. I'm just going to play your little tune.
Oh, thank you.
So here we go. Well, no. Let's come back to this. And hi there, everybody. Yes, thank you for tuning in. Hold on a sec. Can't shut them up. There we go. Let's just remove that. and then there's no risk of that playing again. James.
Yes.
Better known as
Trigga.
Trigga. Why Trigga?
Because
the alliteration, Trigga Tait.
Yeah.
Oh, there he goes again. There's no shit him up, is there? You know, once you started.
That's a thing called an irony.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, Trigga, because I'm quick-witted and very sharp on the uptake with jokes and stuff.
Excellent.
I'm definitely like a few seconds behind everybody else. I've got a coal bunker I've had for 7 years, and I've discovered just the other day that it's got a door on the bottom where you can extract coal more easily than lifting the lid up. Seriously, I never actually noticed it until last week.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been of the opinion that I've always got an excuse for not being able to spell correctly because like me, we're only interested in the first 7 letters of the alphabet, aren't we? Mm-hmm. They're the only ones that are really important.
Oh, yeah, the musical alphabet, yeah. Right.
Yes, exactly. So I was trying to remember the first time I encountered you was as a result of knowing a certain Mr. Matthews.
That's right, Roddy. Yep.
Yes.
Very good fiddle player.
Yep. And he said, could you come and play accordion on your CD? What CD was that?
The Long Journey Home.
It was indeed.
When the studio opened up at Thropton, which I don't know if I'm accurate in saying that Roddy owns it, but he's certainly very high up on it, or very influential person on the board or whatever. I was recording at Roddy's studio. He was playing fiddle on some of my tracks, and I fancied having some accordion on it, and he recommended you. Yep. So I think I sent you a message, and then
yes, I think Roddy said to me about it. He said that James will be in touch. Sorry, just to clarify, I'm just over the border of the Carter Bar in Galashiels. You are
in Roughbury, Northumberland. Roughbury,
which is about the same distance the other side of the Carter Bar.
Yeah, it's about 50 minutes drive to the Carter Bar.
Yeah. Slightly quicker for me then. And at one time you actually stayed at Barrowburn, which is literally, if you look at the map, it's like just within about a mile or two of the border, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, there's a walk up to the border ridge, which lots of people do from Barrowburn, and you can see Galashiels from the top of the hill up there.
Yeah.
Or see the Earden Hills, rather. Yeah.
The Earden, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So,
sorry, yeah.
And also, yeah. What's interesting from people that follow Making a Murder is concerned, that the Avery family name originated from Northumberland.
Is that right?
Well, the actual Avery, there was a derivative. It derived from another word, and it was like a French surname, but the Avery clan, if you like, family crest. It comes from Northumberland. So Steve's ancestors were Geordies like yourself. Or do you class yourself as Geordies or Northumberland?
Northumbrians.
Yeah.
I mean, originally being a Northumbrian was anybody north of the River Humber, but now Geordies they don't call themselves Northumbrians and vice versa, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Slight difference in the vowel sounds, I think, but it depends where you are in Northumberland, really.
Yep. Now, as well as doing music, I'll let you give us a little rendition of Northumbrian poetry, if you'd like to introduce what you're about to read. And
okay,
as I say, tell us a bit about it. I'm going to solo you on the screen, by the way, so that everybody can see you. And all I can say is that whoever does the closed captions and has to put the subtitles to this, all I can say to them is good luck.
All right, yes, they do need it. This one's called To the Blackbird. Sing up, little fella, ye hae the whole world to yourself. A perfect monophony, so let it swoop, soar and swell. Do you think there's out can hear ye, sweet guardian of the dawn? Wi' your timbre rich and perfect, soothing heeds weary and worn? The winter's nearly o'er. Is it ye that tells the leaves best be coming out them branches, like fair hands wrapped in nature's sleeves? Hark ye, heralding the blossom, and the pussy willow too. and all the other wonders in a world still soaked with dew. You need nae magic mirror to tell you who's the best, but 'tis the firm conviction inside all heeds waking from rest, that heaven's song is on your beak, and the stirrer not fully awake will understand afore day creeps fully the peace only he can make. So sing up, little fella, to the crooked and blaeberry pine, and let the whole world still with wonder, for there's nae greater sound than thine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lovely. I think I managed to figure out most of what you were saying there, but I would imagine some of our American viewers will be completely baffled as to what that was about. So what it was simply about the blackbird in the morning making its noises, going about its daily business. Pretty
much, yeah. And it's I don't know if it's the very first bird that sings, but it's when you wake up very early and you hear only that, it's very pleasant indeed.
Yeah,
where I live. And
I would say where you live. Let's be quite clear. You live in Rothbury now, or as the locals pronounce it, Rothbury.
Rothbury,
yes. And Rothbury gained a little bit of notoriety a few years back, thanks to a gentleman by the name of Raoul Moat.
That's right. Yeah, 10 years ago.
10 years ago, blimey. Yeah. For those of you that don't know the story, what was the story behind Raoul Moat and Paul Gascoigne eventually came to try and help the situation?
Yeah, that sort of ending I think could only happen in Rothbury, maybe.
Yes.
Try to see the funny side and all things. Well, he just got out of jail and he was from Newcastle, and he basically came up to Rothbury on the run. I think he'd committed a couple of crimes.
Yeah,
quite serious crimes, and he came up to Rothbury on the run, and there were police going around the village all week, sort of Irish police, Metropolitan Police, all sorts.
Yeah.
And the press all over. Rothbury was on the news.
Yeah.
I was doing a little bit of supply in one of the schools at the time, and we were in lockdown inside the school until 6 o'clock at night.
That's not supplying stuff to the schools. It means you were a teacher going into...
Yeah. No,
okay, just clarification. Sorry to interrupt. And then what happened? They found him in some sort of sewer or something, in some sort of big drain pipe.
Yeah, near the stepping stones in Rothbury, down the bottom of the village, in a similar location to where that crane exploded a year ago.
All right.
He was he'd been hiding out in the storm drain, and they caught him eventually. And it was a really rainy, wet night, and the police were negotiating with him. And about 1 a.m. he died, and then it was all over.
Yeah, but Paul Gascoigne had actually tried to come and help.
That's right. He came up and he says,
Who's
"Look, I have
who's Paul Gascoigne?
Famous Newcastle United footballer. Well, he played for Tottenham and possibly other teams as well. But he came up.
Yeah, he was possibly one of the most talented footballers that England has ever produced, isn't he?
So I believe, yeah.
I mean, when you see some of the things he was able to do, it was absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Very, very, gifted with the ball.
Yeah. Well, there was one very famous shot, isn't there, of Vinnie Jones grabbing him from behind.
Is that right? I just remember the World Cup in 1990 when he got a yellow card in the semi-final.
Yeah. That meant that even if England had made it through to the final, which they didn't, but he wouldn't have been able to play. That's right. Yep.
Just a shame because he was entertaining to watch as well, wasn't he?
He was. Yes. Yeah. A real entertainer. Yeah. So basically, you're right into the music and the poetry. And am I right in saying that you've done CDs purely of poetry?
Largely of poetry. I do have a few songs on as well, 4 or 5 songs. You can see that's called Something in the Water.
Aye.
But this local fella, he basically asked me in the pub if I would do a poetry CD, and he gave us a substantial check to help fund it. And he's dead now, but he always wanted to remain anonymous for it. So I thought it was very, very generous of him.
Yeah. And you drank the money that night in the pub, did you? Or did you? Oh no, it was a check. It was a check.
It was a check.
It straight away. Okay.
Yeah, so there were but 4 or 5 songs, like the Alwynton Show song that you played on, and the Dave the Driver song. They were on it because it's all linked to the dialect theme.
Well, I was going to get onto the Alwynton Show song in a minute because that was in your Long Journey Home CD. But basically, we did the CD and it worked pretty well down at the Coquetdale Trust at Thropton.
Yeah,
which is what, about 4 miles from Rothbury?
2 miles from Rothbury.
2 miles, sorry, 2 miles from Rothbury.
Yeah.
And you had a CD launch actually in the place where you did the recordings.
That's right, because they do concerts there as well.
That's right.
Mainly
that you were chatting away and you'd done your black and white rag, which you love playing the black and white rag, and me and Roddy were sort of at the back there, saying, "Oh, I reckon we should get James to be involved in the band a bit more, and come along and play piano." So that's what happened, wasn't it?
Yeah. Then we started practicing more frequently. We've been out of contact a little bit recently with other things going on, but yeah, we've had quite a lot of gigs, you and I, and various other people in the band.
You've been gigging this weekend?
No, I had a gig last Friday, just before the lockdown, at the Coquetdale.
All right. No, I was supposed to do one last Friday, just before the complete lockdown, but it was at a primary school, so they decided to postpone it. But that's all. And I've had 1 or 2 others. Obviously, even as far forward as the 18th of July, I've had that one postponed till later. That one that we're meant to do at Eyemouth. So they're good fun, aren't they? The Eyemouth dances.
Yeah, nice spot as well.
Yeah,
it's great when you get.
Sorry.
So it's a nice place to play Eyemouth as well.
It is. You get a large audience, and you also get a real mix of youngsters and adults and old people, because it's the final ball at the end of the Herring Queen Festival. Eyemouth being the shipping village where obviously there's a lot of boats go out, and they've got this Herring Queen, and the Herring Queen is, I think it's typically a girl at high school who's around about the sort of 14 years of age, isn't it? It's like not quite complete youngsters, like some of the festivals. Their queen is from the primary school, and some of them, like the gala, they have the brawl lad and the brawl lass, but they are past school age. But Eyemouth, they've just got it just right. They have this Herring Queen, and they've been doing it now for nearly 100 years, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
1920s, I think.
They even have a piece of music dedicated to the festival, don't they?
Yeah, Call of Heaven.
And in Rothbury, they used to have the thing called the Carnival, and it stopped just before I was born, and they had the Carnival Queen thing, and my mum won it in 1975, I think it was, from the Carnival Queen thing. Yeah.
What, despite her having the same first name as my wife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monosyllabic answer there, Paul. Yeah.
Okay.
This is really good. Right.
Yes, yeah, of course it is. So, moving forward, as a result of, as I say, playing on your first CD, we then started doing lots of gigs together, practicing together. As you say, we must get back to doing some more practice together for other stuff. But then we actually did a CD between us.
We did, the Coupon Road CD there. That's got some traditional tunes on, some Scottish dance ones, famous ones, and some of my compositions as well.
That's right. So, and it was a bit of a mad rush to get them finished and get them picked up. I think your dad went and picked them up just before we went somewhere.
Yeah, we went to Shetland for the Accordion and Fiddle Festival last year. 2018.
That's right.
October 2018.
And how did you enjoy Shetland?
It was a very interesting place, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't often swear, but it was. No, I'm not going to swear, but it's it's brilliant there. Absolutely brilliant. It's a brilliant place to go to. And what did you think of the in the centre at of Shetland. You've got obviously Lerwick. You've got a bar that we found called the
The
Lounge.
lounge, yeah.
Yeah.
That was good fun.
Upstairs, they've got a piano and loads of fiddlers and accordionists gather, don't they? You know.
Yeah.
And I haven't got my accordion, and I wasn't really that bothered about playing anyway, because you've got loads of people there playing anyway. But I managed to encourage you to go up and play piano for them, for some of the fiddlers. And then you went into a solo, just as I went downstairs to relieve myself, and I couldn't believe it. What did you play?
Thomas the Tank Engine.
And when I was coming up the stairs, the cheer that you got for that, you know, because I mean, that is just so sort of left field, if you like, you know, so out of the blue, you know, somebody getting up and playing Thomas the Tank Engine, you know. But I think you also did your long journey home one as well, didn't you?
I did a few, yeah. I was mainly accompanying people like accordionists and fiddlers and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I did the Maple Leaf Rag into Thomas the Tank Engine because it's in the same key.
Yeah.
But the lady we were staying with, Jasmine, she said that's Shetland. She says the Thomas the Tank Engine thing because it's very cosmopolitan and they have all sorts of music festivals on there, not just the accordion and fiddle. So I think it would be interesting to see something like the jazz festival if there is one up there or something like that.
Yeah. No, the Shetland is a very interesting place, as you say, and we never got to go anywhere very far away. When we had 2 nights that we played. I've been 3 times now. The first time I went there, the very first day that we got there was the Thursday. Now we went up on the Wednesday, didn't we?
Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, but we first time we went, me and Eunice, we got to Lerwick about, I'm going to say about 1 o'clock. Did a little stint in the opening concert, and then got on a bus. And it went all the way to the top of the mainland of Shetland. Then we got on a ferry to go across to the island of Yell. We went all the way through Yell, and then got on another ferry to go across to Unst. And then just literally within about a couple of minutes of getting off that ferry, we were at a place called Dewey Sound. And we did the concert there. And what was really interesting, the population of Unst is about 600. There was maybe about 100 people in the hall. And Eunice and I were sat, because obviously there's lots of other players that take their turn first, you know. And we were sat next to this couple, a local couple from Unst. But what was really weird was the accent. And halfway through I said, so which part of Unst are you from originally? She said, no, originally we're from Swindon.
Right.
We moved up here just to get away from it, you know, get away from all the hustle and bustle of living down in a well, Swindon's a huge place, as you probably know. It's where they've got this Honda car factory and stuff like that. You know, it's.
I liked Lerwick, yeah.
Sorry?
I said I liked Lerwick, and
Yeah.
I was told that, you know, if I were to consider teaching piano up there, there'd probably be lots of scope for work because there are more fiddle teachers rather than piano teachers. Possibly.
Yeah. A good friend of mine, Peter Wood, he went up there many years ago. I used to be in a band with Keith Dixon, Peter Wood, and Charlie Tait, who was the treasurer for many years for the National Association of Accordion Fiddle Clubs. And we used to, play together, and we had a 6-piece band at one time. In fact, that was me. I used to play bass guitar in that band. Yeah. And what is it that you play? You play mainly piano?
Piano. I do play a bass as well, and I play a guitar.
Yep.
Piano's the main thing that I earn the pennies from.
Yep. And also singing. Tell us about the singing, Innes.
Yeah. It's a ladies' choir I run on a Monday night. It's been going 6 years now. Started off the WI, then it sort of branched off from that and became independent, and it's just never stopped. It just keeps going every week. Just it's quite informal, bit of 2-part harmony going on.
Yeah.
And I also do lots of singing with little kids in schools, local schools.
Yep.
It's quite good fun.
In fact, you go to, well, obviously before they had to shut down, you went to quite a few schools, didn't you, to do your various music classes as a peripatetic teacher, yeah?
3 or 4 different schools, yeah.
Yep. I mean, I used to do that with a couple of private schools, Longridge Towers and Loretta School at Musselburgh. Sometimes it was quite good. Sometimes you always find the people that are so obsessed with the pen pushing and having to, comply with so many different regulations. It's like, you're so busy filling in this, that, and the other. You've hardly any time to actually teach the kids anything.
I know. It's a shame, really. Because I find kids just want to get on with stuff and get stuck straight in.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot. This is going to be a bit of a challenge because I have a feeling that you weren't born in 1974.
Correct.
Who won the Eurovision Song Contest in 1974, and what was the song?
Well, it's got to be ABBA with Waterloo, hasn't it? I've been to the museum in Stockholm twice.
I was going to say, tell us a little bit about your. I wouldn't say it's an addiction towards ABBA, a sort of fascination with ABBA. Tell us a little bit about why for you is ABBA so good.
I don't know. I think when I was a baby, apparently they used to play ABBA in the cot to me to sort of calm us down and help us get to sleep. Yep. So I suppose it's always been in the subconscious since then. And I just think the music's got everything. It's got good melody, harmonies, arrangements, and well-crafted music, which has got everything you want, really.
Well, certainly. I remember, I would have been 9 years old when I watched the Eurovision Song Contest. And without doubt, ABBA were even as a 9-year-old, I could tell they were so much better, so much slicker, professional than any of the other acts. But you were saying that they'd actually been on Eurovision before.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the year before or 2 years before, but they entered with the song Ring Ring. I think that's correct. Obviously, it was the Swedish version of the song, and I think it's a very good song. Didn't win that year, but then it won with Waterloo. Yeah.
I mean, as you say, they do encapsulate a lot of really good stuff. Obviously, the sort of dynamics of the band are very interesting, isn't it? With the two guys were married to the two girls.
That's right, yeah. And then they got divorced, and having read the biography, it seems that the creativity improved after all the tension was resolved after the divorces, because up until the divorces, they were coming to a point where they couldn't really write very well, and it was all very forced. And then sometimes things like that in life happen, don't they? There's like an end of the road thing, and then something new happens. Yeah. But what fascinates me more is the creative process of Benny and Bjorn, and just reading about how they can intellectualize it and talk about it, and they seem very intelligent writers. Yeah.
I mean, I think as generally as a whole, I think Swedes tend to be very, very well. I would say all of that Scandinavian, sort of ethics, if you like, almost. You've got your, Holland, Belgium, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland. All of that sort of northeast part of Europe.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
So, certainly for me, growing up, the great accordionist this side of the Atlantic. Well, there's been quite a few the other side of the Atlantic, including obviously my hero Charles Magnanti. But then this side of the Atlantic, we had a guy from Denmark called Mogens Ellegaard, who was one of the best exponents of accordion playing. But here in Scotland, obviously, hardly anybody's heard of Mogens Ellegaard. Here in Scotland, it's all Jimmy Shand and that type of music. How do you find playing the jigs and the reels for Scottish dance band compared with you know, if you're playing, for example, your piano for a wedding reception, different material altogether.
Different altogether, and some people might think, oh, he's just vamping, doing umcha, but it's a bit more to it than that, because you've got to be in the right key, and we like to have quite interesting chords, don't we?
Well,
you know,
we like to, what I've always liked is the idea of mixing something that's quite well known, and see if you can do that almost like a mashup between, you know, one tune and another. So, for example, I know that we do a bit of that Lady Madonna in one of the reels, don't we?
Yeah.
And then what's the other one that we do? It's the
do your thing.
Yeah, do your thing. Yeah,
yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and another one that I like is if you take away the melody from Moondance and just have the bass and the chords.
Mm-hmm.
It fits well with well, probably quite a lot of jigs, but there's one in particular that I like playing it with. And then if you take something like Jamiroquai's Virtual Insanity,
mm-hmm.
and then play the 2/4 pipe march, Captain Carswell over the top, not
Mm-hmm.
quite the same chords, but virtually the same chords. It actually works. It's incredible how it does, you know.
Yeah,
anyway,
I would all blend.
So sorry. Who are the four members of ABBA? That's what I meant to ask.
Benny, Bjorn, Agneta, and Anna Fried, or Frida.
Yeah, but you know their first names as well.
Was Goran Benny Anderson, and Bjorn. I'm not sure. I might have another full Bjorn Ovius. I was quite close to him last year when I went over to Sweden, because he came to watch Benny and the band. But I didn't go up to him. I saw people were, so I've digressed here. And there's Anna Fried Lindstad and Agneta Falskog. Very
good. So how many times have you been to Sweden to see, is it Benny's band, did you say? Benny's still going with his band?
Yeah, I went to, in 2016, I went to see Benny Anderson's orchestra in Stockholm, 16-piece band. It's a real mix of everything. I don't know if you've ever checked them out. It's just really good pop songs, some ABBA in there as well, and the modern songs are similar to ABBA, but they're in Swedish, obviously. Lots of them are. And last year I went to see them 2 consecutive nights in Stockholm and Trosa, a place called Trosa.
Yeah.
And
is there any difference between Northumberland and Swedish? Because it sounds about the same.
Sweden kind of reminds, the language. There are some words with similar ancestry, yes. All joking aside, there are some similar words, yeah. Like, you know, that you've heard of the Scottish duo, the Trois Bras lads.
Yeah.
You heard of them? Yeah. Well, the Swedes say bra for good.
Yeah.
And barn is ben.
Yeah.
Similar thing.
Sure. So yes, we ended up going to Shetland, and I think we sold a bucket load of CDs, didn't we?
Yes, loads and loads.
Well,
I
remember I actually ended up with a free tie. My CD sales bought my tie, my Shetland tie. But since then, it's been selling gradually, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's had a bit of airplay on some of the Scottish radio stations as well. Yeah, I think. And
sorry, I was going to say as well, you've got a YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's just my name, James Tait, Tait.
Yeah.
Probably easy to find if you type in my name and something like the Cowpen Road Rag, spelled cow, Cowpen, Cowpen Road.
Yep. And since Shetland, I mean, that was like coming up for 2 years ago, wasn't it? You know.
Yeah, time flies.
Yep. And we've certainly been, I would say, fairly busy up until around about a year after Shetland, and then it just started to get quiet. And I think everybody's been a bit quieter, you know. But then this coronavirus has come along, and it's absolutely played havoc. Did you notice the Chancellor in talking about assistance for self-employed people. When I listened to him on, I think it was Tuesday, he immediately, at the beginning of saying, categorizing who are self-employed, the first two jobs he mentioned were musicians and sound engineers.
Is that right? I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
really.
He actually started off by mentioning, but as far as self-employed people, it was musicians and sound engineers, and then it was like hairdressers
I thought he would put the more common tradespeople first in his statement.
Well, I think they still want people to carry on building, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's still an essential job as far as I know.
I'm not really sure. I think a lot of it seems to have stopped, but maybe the non-essential stuff has stopped.
Yeah. I mean, what's really bizarre is that you've got shops that haven't been busier. They've never been as busy. And apparently cycle shops can remain open, but other shops can't,
And they say go out for essential shopping only, but then again, shops are still selling very non-essential items.
Well, yeah. Can you imagine the outcry if you weren't allowed to go to the supermarket to get a beer?
Oh yeah, with all the pubs shut, yeah. I wouldn't be too pleased about that.
Apparently, apparently the sales here in Galashiels over the last week has been busier than even at Hogmanay.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad works in the Rothbury Co-op and says it's been pretty busy,
Yeah.
because they've got time set aside for shopping for the vulnerable and the elderly, which is good. They've got like a community organisation set up for that.
Yes, I think they're doing the same here. And they've also, because there were two entrances in, they've actually got it now whereby you only come in one of the entrances, exit the other one, so you don't mix there. But also, you've got to follow the arrows all the way around, and you're not to deviate. Even though you can see people in the bit where maybe you need to go, you still to follow the arrow so that you're maintaining that kind of social distancing. I mean, I only popped in for a bag of peanuts and 4 beers, and it took me about 15 minutes to walk all the way around at my Asda's.
It's shocking what's happening in Italy. Did you see that in the news last night about gangs trying to break into supermarkets and threatening revolution as well? I mean, because people say they're starving and can't they haven't got money to pay for food. I don't know if they're starving at present, but they were threatening revolution.
I think you're always going to get that. This is the problem. You're always going to get people that see it as an opportunity. Whenever there's something like that. I mean, I think it was in Oklahoma that gun sales have gone through the roof because people have realised that that, as you say, that there could be people out there, or there's that fear that people could. Start taking the law into their hands, see somebody, in a property and think, I want what you've got, and just go and take it, As start DSOM, some shops are putting prices up. I must admit, to be fair, here in the borders, I wouldn't say that they've put prices up because I say that they're as busy as they've ever been, but.
Yeah, I don't think they have here either. And I should correct what I said earlier. It's the revolution thing in Italy. It was just one particular person talking on the news that said that word. That's also just to be clear about that. It's different than the price around here. Yeah.
No, it's interesting days because dare I say it, with people taking this situation into account, is there the possible knock-on effect that they will then start to think more about other important things like what we do to the environment, and take that very seriously. I mean, look, every year I think it's about 600,000 people a year die simply of starvation in particularly third world countries. And the average per year is 2.1 million that die as a result of wars. wars that are going on here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
So
In fact,
sorry.
some people believe. Well, just a thought I had, it could possibly be the Earth trying to regain some kind of balance and saying, "Look, people are abusing me and stuff." Like
Yeah.
as a planet, let's just hang fire a little bit here and calm down,
Yeah.
slow the pace of life a little bit. It's just a theory. It's a bit what's the word? Paganistic theory.
But yeah, Eunice was telling me that back in 2016, apparently the government were warned about the fact that there could be in the future this sort of pandemic, often associated with sort of a flu virus, and to start making preparations for it, and they did nothing. And one of the things that annoys me is the fact that, as we were discussing earlier, it's all in good, these people coming into likes of the health service and looking at places where you can save money. But if at the end of the day that means you've got less staff, less hospitals. I mean, here in the Borders, we've only got one big general hospital now. We used to have loads of little cottage hospitals all around the Borders, and because they've decided that they want to save a bit of this, and somebody's come in and said, "Oh, we can save money," we've kind of reaped what we sowed, haven't we?
It would seem that way, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I mean, you were saying about Rockbury, they had a cottage hospital, and they're trying to.
There was a big outcry because I think it was 2016 they closed the 12 inpatient beds because they said they were underused, and then this big group got together, this committee, Save Rothbury Cottage Hospital, and they did manage to resurrect it to a certain extent. I don't know the full details, but they have retrieved some of the beds, I believe, and it's now called the something hub, the healthcare hub or something in Rothbury.
Yep.
And they've now got a dentist there, where we lost a dentist for 2 or 3 years, and now there's one just up there at that building. The doctor's surgery's up there now, so it's doing not so bad at the moment. The group put a lot of work in, and they used the tune "The Long Journey Home" for their presentation, which was quite nice, really.
Which brings me nicely on to the next question. On that CD, there's a song called "The Alwynton Show."
Yeah, that was a good laugh. Not a literary masterpiece, but a bit of fun, really.
And I believe you got some people to provide like backing vocals that are like true Northumberland speakers.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot about that. Yourself and Roddy.
I remember in the recording studio, we spent about 20 minutes with you and Roddy, and I think it was the sound engineer, trying to get me to speak Northumberland.
Aye, yeah, you just joined in the chorus, but yeah, your accordion was good in it.
What was the line ago? Was it "Let's go to the Alwynton Shore
and see all the things that is to see. Let's go to the Alwynton Shore. There'll be plenty there for a fella like me."
So I was a Geordie for about half an hour.
A Northumbrian,
Northumbrian, sorry, as Northumbrian. That was good fun. I did laugh going home after I'd done that one, because that's all I could think about was speaking Geordie,
It was good fun.
Yeah.
It was quite challenging. I was commissioned actually to write a song for the 150th anniversary, and for ages I couldn't come up with anything. But then I just got this melody, and then tried to include all the historical facts about it, which were basically in there about. And the cooking competitions. There was the story of a laddie once who entered, and to make his sausage rolls appear more uniform in shape, he stuffed them full of canvas rather than meat. And then the judge got a shock when she bit into one. So there's little funny stories like that.
He didn't put any meat in it. He put canvas.
Canvas, aye, so it would be better shape. Aye.
But obviously didn't realise that, as you say, the judge was going to actually bite into it.
Well, I probably realised, yeah. Just did it anyway. So it just started. There was a farm called Kidland Lee close by to Alwynton, and it started in the 1800s with two shepherds arguing about who had the best sheep. So they got in this judge from Newcastle to sort the argument out, and the show began there and then. And it's you've got all sorts there now. You've got wrestling, and as the song says, wrestling and livestock of every breed.
Yeah,
and beer tents and dodgem cars.
And is Alwynton the next village after Harbottle?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Alwynton pub. There's a pub in Alwynton, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
Yes. And the last time I was there was many years ago. But on the jukebox, they had from the 1950s Jimmy Shan playing the Bluebell Polka.
Oh, that's a good tune. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't that?
They still got it. They still got it. The last time you were in.
I've got it on LP somewhere and CD as well.
I'm saying if the pub still got it, is it still on the jukebox in the pub?
I don't know. I haven't been in there for a while. I think they've got one of those downloadable jukeboxes now. You know.
Oh, you mean no more Jimmy Shand?
But you can probably still play Jimmy Shand on it because it's downloaded.
Okay. Oh, that's okay then.
All right.
Good. And what sort of other music are you into then?
I love the Beatles, Status Quo as well.
Yeah.
I've seen them about 7 times. Yeah.
Who? The Beatles.
Status Quo.
7 times.
I've seen Paul McCartney.
Status Quo. Sorry. Yeah.
Status Quo I've seen 7 times. Yeah. I have seen McCartney. Just saying.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm quite into all this 80s new romantic stuff because I watched this really good film that one of my students lent me called Sing Street. Have you seen that?
Can't say I have.
It's about it's set in Ireland in the early 1980s. Well, it was made 2 or 3 years ago. These high school kids get a band together, and you got all that synthesizer stuff with things like Tears for Fears and Aha, those sort of bands. I'm quite into that. I did a couple of songs last week on my little keyboard, just playing with those kind of sounds, and I uploaded them to YouTube as well.
Yep. Now I still remember the very first track I ever paid to listen to on a jukebox would be 1981, and it was Human League with their song Love Action, and I'd never heard anything quite like that before. It was like really strange with all the synthesizers, because I mean back then all the synthesizers were analog synths, weren't they?
There's something about the spaced out kind of sound of especially the vocals. Whereas today, I think that everything sounds so compressed and in a hurry. I'll not name individual artists, but there's 1 or 2 good stuff around today. But
yeah, no, I mean, I think that the lead singer of Human League is Phil Oakey, and I mean he's definitely got a great voice for the songs that he sings, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. They all had their own distinctive timbres.
Yes.
But now I think a lot of them are so doped up with auto-tune and compression, as I say, it's hard to distinguish some of them,
Yeah. I was going to allude to the fact though that I think you quite like ragtime music.
Oh yeah, Mrs. Mills. I've got a Mrs. Mills CD. Yeah, ragtime. I like to play ragtime. Scott Joplin. Things like the Pineapple Rag, the Entertainer, all sorts of stuff like that. It's good. Keeps your hands working.
Yeah, well, it certainly is very beneficial when you're doing some of the Scottish stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
what you're doing with one hand, the left hand in your ragtime stuff, you're then able to divide between the 2 hands, so you're able to bring a lot more into the mix, as it were. In that, for example, you can often harmonize the bass note, say with the 3rd or the 7th of the chord. And then add in the chord. Yeah.
Now, here's a question. Do you think ragtime is more closely related to classical music or to jazz? Because one fella said to me that, that play ragtime on the beat where jazz is off the beat. He thought it was more akin to classical music.
Well, I know that the sort of the transgression, if you like, was from, obviously at one time we had, classical music, if you want to call it that. Classical covers a whole lot of genres, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
But certainly in the early 20th century, if you like, in New Orleans, where they reckon that kind of jazz first started. It was that mixture of Negro spirituals, Scottish and Irish jigs, polkas, all that kind of stuff came together. I mean, I would say ragtime and polka, very, very similar. Ragtime, though, is very much off the beat. Very much off. What they'll often do in ragtime, you take something classic like 12th Street Rag, it's like three quavers, deddle, beddle, deddle, 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 dun. There's a lot of syncopation going on there, isn't there?
Oh, it's definitely syncopated. That's the whole essence of the thing, yeah.
Yeah. No, I would say that yes. Before it was your classical music, and particularly polkas and jigs and reels from the Scotland and Ireland, and that then led to ragtime music, and then from ragtime music, we started to see the origins of bebop and modern hard bop, and right up into the present day.
I do like listening to Fats Waller and other people from that era.
Yeah,
we've got some great tunes. There's one I really like. It's not that well known. They're called Georgia Rocking Chair by Fats Waller. Have you heard of that one?
I can't say I have. My uncle always used to go on about Art Tatum. He was like Art Tatum. Yeah, to me, sometimes it seems like a technical exercise. I think I'm very much more Oscar Peterson. I prefer his style of music, which is jazz. But they reckon it was, again, kind of, because it was jazz in the 60s. There's almost like a harking towards rock and roll music in some of the stuff that he does.
Yeah, that's another interesting one. The evolution of rock and roll, isn't it? Well, it's all derived from blues, obviously, but it's like Buddy Holly and Elvis and all that lot. Jerry Lee Lewis, who's still alive, I believe.
Well, it's funny. I one of the biggest laughs I ever had was discussing. I used to go down to Rothley to teach, and I used to teach at George Muckle's building yard in the offices. Then it got to the stage where, when I realised some of the pupils would be better off if I did my peripatetic going to home, I used to go to a farm just outside, and I remember the young girl that was doing accordion. She was preparing for, I think, grade 5, but she was also doing music at school, and I was asking her about what sort of stuff they did at school in music, and she said, well, we've just started this week the history of music. I said, oh right, you mean like Bach and Scarlatti? She said, oh no, starting from Elvis Presley. That's the history of music from Elvis Presley. The rest of it didn't exist. Forget about the rest of it. We start history music from Elvis Presley. So I thought, that was quite.
That's like the famous John Lennon quote. He says, "Before Elvis, there was nothing."
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to pop to the toilet for a second.
Listen, I'm gonna say cheerio anyway, because that's just nearly an hour.
Yeah.
So
that's fine.
So I'm going to say cheerio anyway, and you can nip off to the loo. I'll probably do the same, but I'd like to thank everybody that's tuned in and everybody that's going to be tuning in at some point in the future. And please do go and check out James Tait's YouTube channel. Type in James Tait as on the screen, and then if you type in something like Coupon Road Rag, COWP, it's cow pen, isn't it? Cow pen.
Yeah.
Okay, say cheerio then.
Yeah, all the best.
If you say it's goodbye from me,
it's goodbye from me,
and it's goodbye from him. Goodbye.
You've just made that up, haven't you? Bye now.